Box rotations seem like an easy exercise to do at first, but it is also a super effective way to level up your art and get better both at drawing and painting. In this video, I'm also painting a piece without any vanishing point and showing the benefit of this exercise. And at the same time, I reveal how the subject matter should dictate how you approach perspective in the first place. Basic shapes are important for all art, but even before doing cones or cylinders, you can put pretty much anything into a bounding box, and just this one skill makes drawing and painting anything easier. Think about head shapes, for example. Once you can start doing box shapes, it's much easier to put the rest of the details in perspective. So let's level up and first move on to how to do the box rotations. This is not going to be as much work as you might think, because over halfway point, those will be just mirror images of the same thing. So to make this practice give you more benefit for less time commitment, we're going to do only 4 instances to one direction. That way, we can use the remaining time for rotations on different axes. First 2 are the side silhouette and the midway point. Here we see how the sides vary in size based on how close to the camera they are. Also note here that the sides are slightly further apart than in the silhouette. To help practice this, you can create a square grid for your boxes and go over the lines wherever the box is closer to the camera than the starting plane. This way, you can also practice maintaining the same volume within the boxes, because we want to imagine that this is the same box that is just rotating in space. Now all we are missing is the point where the box turns just a little bit before reaching the midpoint. For this, we can divide the space between the left and right edges by 3 segments, giving us a really easy template to do the rest of the boxes. When we do the same vertically on the y-axis, we can use the same tools by just setting the guide dots on the side. Then let's start rotating an already rotated starting point. This is easier when you start from the quarter view first and only then move on to the much harder in-between shapes. The great thing about this exercise is that you can do it in very short segments, so even if you have a little bit of time, you can probably knock out few boxes when you don't have time to do a full drawing. The beginning might feel a little bit discouraging, because you might have some wonky lines, and the 3 common causes for those wobbly lines are: 1. The straight lines are not actually parallel to each other. 2. Implied vanishing points are not on the same horizon line. Even though you don't have to draw the entire vanishing point line to the vanishing point, you want to imagine that those vanishing points are on the same horizon line. That way your box stays as a box from all directions. And 3, this is the most important reason that you should prioritize over anything. You're not working fast enough, leading to wobbly edges that cause reasons 1 and 2 to happen. It is important to approach this as not just as a drawing practice, but also as a muscle memory exercise. As such, repetition is key to improvement. So even if you make tons of wobbly boxes that are not uniform in size, just keep going and trust that this is focused practice, and focused practice will lead to improvement over time. To help pinpoint the areas where you need the most help, if you're filling out your boxes in a grid like this, you can give the rows coordinates and mark up ones where you need more practice. That way, you can make progress in the areas where you need extra repeats faster than just repeating the entire set over and over. This practice is great for beginners, but you can vary the difficulty and keep this as your permanent warm-up routine with these difficulty modifications. Think of them like levels in a game. You can vary the difficulty by doing opaque or transparent boxes. But for level 1, I think the transparent boxes are a little bit easier because they help visualize the unseen 3-dimensional space, and they give that understanding what the shape of the object is. Another way to increase difficulty is by assigning letters to the sides and rotating with the box. Some letters are more difficult than others. For example, letter O is probably the most difficult letter to rotate on the sides of the box. Finally, you can also round off the sides of the box like you're sanding them down. And the hardest variation is to round the surfaces of the box, getting it closer to a ball but still keeping the box's shape. If you get bored of just doing boxes, you can start attaching them to each other and stacking them and then doing a rotation in a stack. And this leads to the painting that I'm working here. It's clearly just a result of me doing these exercises a lot when I was in art school, and this is how you can apply that information. The hardest part about this exercise is the start, and I understand that it can be frustrating. And even now, as I started doing these exercises after years of not doing them, at least my boxes look terrible in the beginning. And only a few days now, at least in my opinion, showed a lot of progress. So why do this at all when you can just pull out drawing guide and do perfect three-dimensional shapes that way? But that's exactly the problem. Perfect is not always better. When I started working on this piece, I was honestly in complete panic mode because I had no sketch even though I had the entire day to prepare. So I just had no idea whatsoever, just this ugly blob. And I was afraid that no idea would come at all while other people are watching me just fail. But when the boat shape started coming into view, instead of fixing my mess with vanishing points and drawing assist, I opted to do everything freehand instead. Vanishing point lines can make things often easier and faster, but I would argue not always better, depending on the piece that you're working on. What is the subject? What is the mood? I just completed painting a huge detailed architectural dark fantasy piece that I'm going to turn into a full tutorial. You can sign up on my Gumroad to be noticed when it goes on sale, and it will be only on sale in the launch. That piece absolutely requires the vanishing point lines to work because it has so much texture and detail in it. Also, this piece wouldn't work without 3-point perspective. It is a really big part of the storytelling here. That's also a huge part of the visual storytelling in weatherbox painting. If these boxes weren't in perspective, I think the entire idea would fall apart. However, in something like this, I don't actually want the perspective to be too correct. Old houses have that little bit of jank to them that makes them look, in my opinion, a little bit more cozy. In this little boat, I want the rhythm of the stacked elements of the ship to be slightly different angles and give the painting that look, which some might call messy, and I understand that. Still, I think it's charming, and I don't think this would look better if I were to go over every line with a ruler and a quick shape tool. The effect that I'm looking for here is almost like a stack of shoe boxes just thrown together, and that's the boat. Doing box rotation exercises doesn't just improve your drawing and painting skills, it unlocks the freedom to choose your own form of storytelling. Don't think of perspective as something that is just right or wrong. The point of this video is not to tell you one way is better than the other, but I want you to acknowledge that this is a choice that you can make to give your story more impact. Is it essential to see train tracks vanishing into the horizon? Use perspective lines. Is it about a motorized, self-made home rattling along on threads? Probably don't use a vanishing point. Elements that affect this choice are scale. Not just the scale of your subject, but the scale of the role that you're casting your viewer in this piece. Are they small? Are they small compared to the subject of your piece? Where are they? Texture. High contrast, sharp textures and patterns benefit from clear, consistent 3D cues that don't override the shape because of the texture. And finally, mood. How do you want those shapes not just to look, but how do you want them to feel? Perspective studies are important and they do form a foundation for work like this, but I think it's also important to understand that they should give you more freedom in how to express yourself and not take that option away in the process. I'm sure we all know that one art enthusiast in our lives who's all about academic art practice and has that stiff art style that lacks all personality. You can do technical exercises without them becoming your entire style. I know that YouTube videos are all about simplification, but in art, you have more choices than you think, even when it comes to perspective. Also, if you don't agree with me on not using proper perspective here, feel free to let me know in the comments. I'm Mikko, and I'll see you in the next video.